Hey, welcome to a new build here at the Originator Workshop. We are tackling this time a new-ish build. This is a 22 Honda Monkey, and I'm going to be doing a really cool little chop job to it, so stick around. So the idea is to build a lower frame here that I can mount forward controls on, since we're not going to be using the stock placement of the pegs. So what I'm going to do here is just get a bit of a measurement. I've already done it with a tape, but my idea is where these old rear sets came off. It's a real solid mount on the frame, which I can make a bung for the lower part of the mount here. I can go along here, make my bend up to the under part of the front frame, just behind the headstock. I'll make a plate there that's unboltable, and then this lower can be removed with the forward controls. So this would mount about here, and following along the lines of the stock positioning of the rear sets, they were 11 inches off the ground. I'm going to try and keep the front ones the same, 11 inches, so we'll follow straight there, give it a bit of a bend, get my positioning, start to make this lower frame. Okay, so right now I've got this at about a 70-degree bend. I'm trying to get, obviously some cool looks out of this, not just function, but sometimes function has to trump the looks. The reason being, this is the idea. I want to mount that at around that angle, let's say, okay? Obviously you can see that 70 degrees puts it too far forward from where I need to land on the frame. Now that would be a nice angle because it's going to match the kind of like look fast, sitting still look that I tend to go for on my bikes. But if I slide this back and keep that angle, you'll see that's going to put the rear sets almost at the crankcase and not the front of the cylinder head, which is where I need them to be for leg length, because we're still going to lower this rear end. And let's say you're 6 feet like me and you got your legs kicking out there, that's going to be pretty cramped. You're going to have your knees and your elbows. So we're going to have to take that a little further. I'm thinking, based on where I'm positioned right now, almost a 90. I'll go to 80 now, see where that is, check it again, and let's see, because ideally that's where I want my foot pegs to be, just at the front of the motor here. So give it another bend. Just wanted to explain what I was trying to accomplish. Okay, so what I'm trying to do now, after chopping off the frame, removing the handlebars, we're trying to get geometry on this bike. I've raised the tank mount, so that's going to give the front of the tank more of a slope to match this angle of the frame. And then the seat, well, I'll just set it on there for now to give you an idea. We're going for a low slung bobber look. Got some really small shocks to put on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a subframe for the seat, which is going to put it probably more in this area. But to give you an idea how small these shocks are, I'll mount this one on and just button that up. Now these aren't adjusted or anything, but it gives you kind of an idea in terms of what I've got to shoot for when making this subframe. So I'll come around the other side here, show you what I'm thinking. Right, so if the seat was about this position, so we'll build a hoop that goes around with a lower slung area here to mount to the shocks on both sides, some kind of little kick out for the fender. That's going to give me a good seating arrangement with the forward mount pegs on the front of this lower bracing that I've made. The tank will mount, kind of flow into the seat with the high bars. Should be a cool little mini bobber. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm going to wireframe out the subframe and I'll get working on that. Once I get it kind of tacked in, I can disassemble the entire bike, put it on the bench, finish all my welding, do a dry run, reassembly, make sure everything fits right before final teardown and powder coat, etc. to reassemble. All right, I think I got a bend that I'm happy with. I've just mimicked the seat. So I'll start to feel this out here in terms of positioning to see where I could make shock mounts, that sort of thing. So obviously you want enough for suspension so this can move and not hit the tire. So when I'm shooting for that backbone, so I think that might be a good start in terms of length. Not a far, if I can kind of hold that steady, not a far distance here to build a triangle for that shock mount either. All right, so I'll just bring you into what I'm thinking here and how all of this is kind of just like on the fly. I mean, it's planned, but it's not just, you know, we kind of go with the flow here. So this is the wireframe, obviously, that I made. Just positioning that on the table here to see what's flat. So that area, as you can see, this is the radius of my bend. Okay, so I'm going to need to section it in the center, bring each of these out to meet this outside. So now, since these are scrap bends that I've got, I'm going to try and see what I can fit in the bender if I was to go to the next bend that lays flat. So that means around this area, I'd need to kind of bend that up, and I'm not sure. This is where it gets tricky. You really can't fit that into your bender, clamp down, and then try and bend it again. So I'm going to try that. Let's see if you're in frame here, if you can follow along to my thought. Move you up a bit. So, all right, so there's the bender. Right, let's just do this quick, just to show you my thought. So, just get an idea. If that was the spot there, the next bend would be pretty much on that point, right where the bend starts. So, good luck, I think. Let's see what we can do. So we'll see how far in we can fit this into the bender. Yeah, so here's the problem. You can get it in to basically this starting point. The bend starts way back here on the die. So you're not going to be able to do that, which is why in the past I've put these on the table, heated them up, and then given them a bend. I'm not sure. I think the way to go about this is to actually make different segments and weld this together. I'm going to try and do that. Yeah, I don't know. This is a finagly one. Tough to build. Anyway, I'm going to try and bend these as independent pieces, section it together to achieve what I'm trying to go for here, and cross my fingers I can make this work. All right, so after a bit of fiddling, you saw me add the extension piece in here to widen this out. That's what we end up with. So these two curving pieces into the front here will hook up to the backbone when I just slice those in. This will come up a bit further, but that's the kind of the idea to give you that seat position, right? Think of something like that. And then off the backbone here, I'm going to make a gusset. did not film all this, but these holes are what I designed in the computer, cut out some parts, and I'll show you what I did on the bike. Let's just move over there now. So what I did was, you saw last time I was making the hoop here, and I've designed these little side plates that are going to support the seat. So they were welded on, plasma cut out on the table. I've done the brace here, so now they will support it in the center. That entire tail is now supported. When I get the frame taken apart, I'll weld the underside, just easier to do it that way. The slot in the center is for the base of the seat, so I can fit between there, do the nut on. I've got to weld some corners here for the back of the seat. And right now what I'm working on are the top upper shock mounts, so they'll go here. I've just got to move over to the lathe and make myself a couple of bungs that are, here, let's show you. So these bungs here will be created to slot into the little pieces that I made on the plasma table. So I will drill and tap that, so when I mount the shock, it'll have a solid bar to go into on both sides. And that's kind of what the plan is. So I'll finish this up, and then when I'm ready, I'll weld it on the bike. I'll show you how I'm doing that. I'll film that portion of it. Let's start over, literally. So working on custom bikes, funny thing is that sometimes it takes putting it together to kind of look at things and figure out if it's going to work or not. In going through the seat position, doing the forward mounts here, let's go through it. So I did the forward mounts. Everything lined up beautifully. I thought, okay, cool, I'll use these mounts that used to house the rear sets on the stock bike. That's cool. This whole thing can unbolt. What I didn't like, or I guess what I was doing at the time, was kind of mimicking the motor. And then what I didn't like was when I put the exhaust on, you can see how much more it hangs down. I mean, we're like 4 inches below my frame rails, which tells me I can make these things much lower. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me more leg room, right? So if I can bring this down, put my mounts here, which is another 3 inches ahead, it's going to give me more leg room from the seat. On top of that, I really am trying to match the lines of the frame, so following this down, that's where the seat's doing that. And what was happening was I had to jack it up so high to get tire clearance. My swing arm was on such an angle, it was changing the rake of the front end, so no more chopper look, it was almost straight up and down. I need to get it back into standard geometry here. So what I've done is I've lopped off my shock mounts, and instead of moving them down at the lowest point, I'm moving them up higher. So it's going to give me more of an up and down motion on my shocks, which is actually probably not a bad thing. And then it's going to keep my rear back of the frame, about 3 fingers there away from the tire. These are pretty tough shocks, like hard, rigid almost. One of them, would be used on a mountain bike. 2 of them never used on a mountain bike. Certainly going to make this little bike rock hard in the rear. So for all intents and purposes, it is a rigid rear end. But anyway, don't care about that. I think that's cool. But I do want to get myself some more legroom. So anyway, this is where I'm picking up. I'm going to weld these in position, cut the one off the other side, and then I'll probably be remaking this whole front end after all the finish welding I did on it. Things go faster the second time around. And in this case, I'm thinking it's going to go super quick. So that's what I'm up to. Back to cutting. All right, let me just take you around the bike. It's together. The only thing I've got left to do is I'm changing out these front forks from the red. I've got new black legs, so I'm gonna take the whole fork apart just to change the color. Customer wanted it that way, that's cool. Built this battery box for the side. I built a left and a right side, so you undo 3 bolts. This side's got the battery, other side's got all the wiring and the fuses. I'll take you around. Okay, so this side here has all the fuses, easy access. Did a bit of that circle design that I've taken throughout the bike, so we've got them on the front. Got my logo ghosted in there. Did the same holes here under the seat, if you picked up on that. So there's just this theme going throughout the bike. That was started by these rear sets here. So I didn't really love the oval, but I went with the circles throughout. Just kind of kept everything in that same theme. And even though you won't see it, I made a license plate bracket. So this mounts the signals, and I put the holes in behind there as well. So add some lightness to it. These are fully integrated. Let me turn them on for you and show you. Okay, so there's the running lights, and I'll show you the signals. Okay, so we got signals there. Other side, I'll come around, hit the brake for you. Okay, so there we are, brake. So tried to be as visible as I could be on the back of the bike. Hopefully that was in frame. If not, I'll get you again on the tripod. Muffler, just wanted to keep it nice and tight. So this is a stainless unit. It's got the DB killer in it. That can be removed if you want to go with the obnoxious sound of a single cylinder 125. Probably sounds like an angry sewing machine, but is what it is. Forward controls. Sorry, that should be down. So I made the brackets. Saw me develop those here. Built the brackets. Ended up having to flip these around on this shift side. And I'll explain where my head was at. So the original intent, you see this bung here on the lower part. I had the linkage go from here to the outside. It fed through to the other side and then up to the shifter. But in all those connections, there was just too much play and I wasn't getting positive shifting. I was getting action on the front of this that would go almost down this far and back that far. So way too much for anyone to be shifting. As it sits right now, it's very easy to shift. I could do it with my fingers, so easy to do with your foot. I've got to fabricate a bushing that goes in here. I don't like the plastic ones that came on these rear sets, and it's a bit too loose. So I'm gonna jump over to the lathe here in a bit, and I will make a bushing that goes in here to make sure everything's nice and tight on that shift side. Brake side was fine. I don't know what was up with the shift side. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm going to jump onto these fork legs and we'll get it all finished up, and I'll do one final walk around when the bike's done. Customer can fetch it when he's ready. So I just wanted to show you how I'm doing this. I'm just changing the upper, not changing anything else. I don't need to go in the bottom with the Allen key and take all that out. What I do is just undo the top as you saw, remove the dust cap. Inside the fork leg there is a small little ring clip. So what you want to do is take your screwdriver and pop that out. There's 2 detents on that. So you're going to pop that out. Let's do that here for a second. There you go. So that's the spring. I'll pull that up over the fork leg to show you. So that's it there. Okay, you got a little spring. And then inside that is your seal. Now what holds that in is that spring in a little groove. So I'm going to pull these forks apart, just smack them like that, and that's going to drive the dust seal out. Then I can put the black leg on, put the dust seal back, the fork seal back, then the ring, then the dust cap. What I ended up doing was, I normally work on full-size motorcycles, and I wasn't going to buy a special tool to drive the fork seal in. I have these split tools that I use on regular forks. So what I did was I went to my lathe and I just made a small adapter out of some aluminum. So this is a similar idea. It's 2 halves, right? So what I did was I left the top wide enough that I can use my bigger tool on it to slam it down, but the inside is the size of the current fork seal. So that'll slide up inside when I put that on the fork leg, and then I can hit that seal back home and put it all back together. So just going to continue along here. All right, trying to avoid getting oil all over my hands. Okay, so I'll show you how I get these fork seals out. I've drained most of the fluid out. Hopefully it doesn't spatter all over me. So as I said, I've removed the retainer clip. All that's in there right now is the fork seal. So let's see if we can get these apart. There it is. Okay, so that's all it takes. You can see the seal is still on the fork leg. And there you go. So there's the upper fork leg in red. And we've got OEM Honda parts here for the black. They're on a different year. I can't recall the year. This is a 2022. I think maybe it's a 2020 or something that came with black. So I ordered those up. Let's get that out of there. But it is nice to have new stuff. I'm anticipating the customer's probably going to get the tank painted black, and then the whole bike will be blacked out. So that's probably the look he's going for. Okay, so that goes in. You can see the seal going up inside there. Of course, it gets stopped at the end. Okay, so now I'm going to hopefully not spill any remaining oil anywhere. Let's get rid of this one. Okay, and I'll show you how I drive that seal in. Okay, so I'm going to push it in as much as I can. Okay, these are the 2 halves that I made on the lathe, as I said, so they fit inside there. So I use my driver. It's got some weight to it. Open that up. That's 2 halves, and it's got pins on it. Trying to hold all this together while I'm doing it. Okay, so there you go. All right, so the aluminum piece is underneath, and then my driver. Okay, so hopefully this isn't too loud on your ears. Okay, so that's gone down. You can hear it. You can hear the sound change. Oh, come on. All right. So there it is. 2 halves. Okay, then I'm just going to put the ring clip, dust cap, and I'll catch back up with you in a second here when I put it all back together with oil. By the way, I'm switching over to 10 weight oil. These come stock with 5, and they are like a pogo stick. So switching to 10 is going to slow it down a bit, make it a much nicer ride. So anyway, I'll put that back together and then put it all back in the bike. Okay, so that's a wrap on this bike. I want to say thanks for watching, and honestly, it's not really my thing doing mini bikes, but in the end, a bike's a bike, and this was a ton of fun. When I took on the project, that's exactly what I said to the customer. He was surprised I was willing to take it. Everything I do here at Originator is a one of one for the most part. I don't replicate any builds. This was just another opportunity to do something cool and unique. So customer hopefully enjoys it for years to come. It's a brand new bike, really. Anyway, thanks for watching once again, and I'll catch you on the next build. Let's fire it up. Listen to that purr.